Hello everybody. This is just going to be a video showing and walking you through how to assemble and animate the Automata box. So first and foremost, I already have started a new assembly. So again, remember when you open up Onshape, there's tabs at the bottom. First one is the part studio. The second one is an assembly. Make sure you click on assembly so that you'll have and you'll know you're in an assembly if you see this little insert command. And that's where you can insert all of the parts that you've created up to this point. So obviously, I've kind of already done part one of this assignment, right? So the part one was originally create the following items so that we can animate this thing, and then choose four or six, four of the six that you were given as far as the cams. So I chose these four here. Now, remember, mine are going to look a little different because I made mine way before I made that other assignment. So my pair cam, as you can see, is a little taller. My hex cam actually has some curves here. If you choose the hex cam, real quick little kind of preview or hint. If you make the hex cam or you choose that as one of the four cams of this animation, make sure you fillet the edges. That's really important. The eccentric, the pair, and the heart for this example are already pre-done for you, but the snail cam as well might give you a little issues. You can't have any sharp edges in animations. That's really important, especially with what we call and what we've learned with this new tangent mate. It's really important that we have a curved surface for the path to follow. So that's the first little kind of tidbit. For time and just to be conscious of time, I've already put all of the parts in. I've already kind of placed them. They're not constrained whatsoever, so I'm going to walk you guys through that whole thing. The only other thing that I have done up to this point is this back plate that I did put in. I made it completely fixed. So as you drop this down, I did a little subgroup and I've named each of the parts. I highly recommend doing that. Make sure you name each of, left side, right side, top, bottom. Another little thing is this silly little hole on mine. Don't worry about that. You won't have that. I can't get rid of it. It's not a big deal. Just ignore that. So I made the back part basically fixed so that nothing can kind of move. That part can't move, but everything else is fully movable. So we're going to constrain this thing. We're going to make it so that this whole entire thing is together. So I'm going to start with the box, and then I'm going to kind of go throughout this video and just try to assemble the thing first. After I assemble it, then I'll start basically creating those tangent joints, and then after I'm done making the tangent joints, I will then animate it and show you guys how to do all that. So if you look at the description below in the video, you'll see little bookmarks that I made. Those bookmarks will then reference to different parts of the video so that you don't have to watch this whole video because I know it's going to be long. So let's get started. Basically, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some joints in here. So I have this part. I'm going to go to fasten for most of these. And as you can see, I'm going to use this corner center midpoint on the bottom there. And I am going to place it to actually the bottom of this box. Rotate, try and get there. And I'm going to go to the outside edge so that it fastens there. Press solve, press the green check mark. And again, now I'm not going to get out of fasten because I'm going to use fasten quite often. So I press that green check mark and you can see I have the first piece in. I have some overhang, which is where these other pieces are going to go. So I'm going to do the same thing. Let's do this. Oop, didn't collect it, sorry. That to this outside one here. And as you can see, it pops in, press the green check mark, moves it over. Let's do the other side now. And as you can see, I'm using this outside node here to this, zoom in, this outside node here. Again, green check mark so that it finalizes it. And now I have four parts basically for that piece. I'm going to leave the front open, obviously, because there is no part for that. And then the last one, let's use this side here and bottom midpoint of that outside to the outside piece here. And then again, green check mark. And now I'm done with fasten for at least the box. So I'll press solve, green check mark. And now you can see, even if I try and move those pieces, because that other piece is fixed, the box is good. So remember, again, this silly little hole in the back, ignore that. You don't need to worry about that. It's completely useless. So I have all my parts. Everything is fastened. I'm trying to show to you that nothing's moving, right? Okay, I'm going to go part by part. So the next thing, I will actually use fasten for these bushings. So I'm going to use, as you can see when I zoom in here, there's 3 points. There's the outside, there's the back, and then there's the middle. I'm going to use the middle because it seems to be, I don't want it to be, I want it to overhang on both sides. So again, same kind of thing. In here, you'll see 1, 2, 3. You got to rotate it sometimes, and I want the middle to be the middle. And as you can see now, it'll poke out on each side. So I can press this green check mark, and it'll move that piece, but still leaves fasten open. Come back over here, same thing to this other bushing that it's called. Come over here and do the center to that, to the center of this. See, sometimes you just got to move the camera around to make it work. Green check mark, and I have that fastened now. So I'm good with those bushings. Let's put these bushings in now. So I'm going to start again, same thing. I'm going to use the center, and I'm going to use the center of this hole if it lets me. If it doesn't, I'll just use the top. Oh, it does. Cool, there's the center, green check mark. Good there for now. Over here, push this in, put all these in just to get them done. Angle it a little bit so that I can see the center. Ooh, popped up for a second. There we go. Just have to play with it a little bit sometimes. No big deal. Go back up here. Same thing. There's one. Come in, zoom in a little bit. That center one. Good. Green check mark. Red again. We'll see here. Go to rotate a little bit so that this fits in. Come on, show me that middle node. There it is. And green check mark and solve. So now I have my follower guides. I have my bushings. Now I'm going to start kind of working on this. Now I say this in the instructions, make sure you make this other little handle piece. I see a lot of people not doing that. Make sure you put that little handle, make this. It's just a square rectangle that's 0.25, and I extruded it just a little bit. I'd say maybe an inch, half an inch, something like that. I didn't make a drawing file because I figured it was a square extruded, right? It can't be that hard. So I'm assuming that you guys can do that. So make sure you don't forget that little part. And all this is a handle so that we can put that piece in the center of that piece. Click there, green check mark, and now that's fastened in there and we're good to go. This other piece, we want to put the axle into the handle as well. So this back, click, check mark. I'm just moving my mouse around to find the right node. I'm not clicking anything special, just to FYI. Okay, so now before I put the cams in, I feel like it's, you can do this either way. It really doesn't matter if you what order you do this in. You can put the cams on now and then move the whole axle inside the box, or you can put the axle inside the box and then put the cams on after. I'm gonna put the cams on after, and I'll show you why in a second. So let's do this end. Let's do the center of the axle here. So I'm gonna rotate this. Try and do this face here, and maybe it'll pick up. It doesn't. That's okay. We'll do the end here. Just again, I'm trying to make this as short as possible. Do the end center, and I am going to put this into the end of this, and it's okay. It's not sticking out. We don't want it to be a fasten though. We want it to be a revolute because we want it to rotate around that system. So I'm going to press the offset button as well, because I don't want it to, as you can see here, it's sticking way out on one end and it's not sticking out at all on the other end. So we want to make sure that that sticks out a little bit. So I'm going to, and as you can see here, it says Z is this direction. So I'm going to go into Z, and I want it to offset, let's say, let's go like 0.5 and see what that gives me. Okay, so that's close, probably a little bit too much. Let's go 0.4, let's go 0.3, and this should just play until you get it right. 0.2 it looks like. Cool. I can press the green check mark now, and as I press solve and the green check mark, it should come with that system. Uh-oh, something didn't work. Move that. I picked the wrong system, so I'm going to delete that second, or that delete. Here we go. So what I did on accident there is I selected the wrong. I want this to go to this rather, the order. You got to pick what you want to move into what you want it to move it to. So this piece, let's see, is that fasten? Yeah, that's why it's all messed up. So I remove that fasten, and again, you'll find you'll make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I want this part to move to this piece here. Check mark. Solve, green check mark. Now we should be good. Let's check. Good. Okay, so let's try that again. Now we're going to do a revolute, and I want this piece, center piece, to revolute inside that hole. And as you can see, again, we need to offset that a little bit, and I think we said 0.2 was the kind of key number there. Green check mark. Uh-oh, something's still wrong. Let's play it, see, solve, play. Sure what the fasten. Seems to be working. I'm not sure why that's looking like that, or what these other fastens are. These two mate connectors. Just must be, I just accidentally pressed fasten. That's okay, let's delete it. Let's delete this revolute 2 because there's not a revolute 2. Let's see, make sure it still works. Yeah. So I don't know, I just made a mistake. No big deal. Just delete those. So now I have this. The box is still solidified. All the bushings are solidified. They're fastened, right? And then I have this revolute. So the reason that I chose not to put the cams and the followers in until at the end was because of alignment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these followers inside the follower guides. That'll allow me to position the cams directly underneath them so that I don't have to guess and then go back and change things. So let's go ahead and do a slider because we want these fasteners to, or these the followers to go through the slider. So we go through here and we want the center of this to go through. You can do a couple different variations if you want. We want it to go in the center here. And you can always, check and make sure you can press play here and see what it would look like and what it does. That might help you just to get a little preview. I'm going to actually offset this up, and you can see Z again is the up direction. I want to not rotate around. I want to, let's see here. Let's cancel that. Let's try and do the center to make it easy on ourselves. So we're gonna go slider. Instead of the top one, here, let's go, we can still do the top. Let's do the center here. Okay, so now we can do offset now. We want Z. Is that right? Rotate though. I don't want it to rotate. It's the offset for that. Why? Okay, so instead of offsetting, sorry, I had to pause there for a second. Instead of offsetting, I just placed it after I placed it. I moved it, and I'll show you again on this next one here. So just make another slider, and as you can see here, go over here, click, and then move that slider, and I'm going to put this one on the top. Click, and green check mark, and you can move these again because it's a slider. You just move it up. Works fine. Do the other two real quick here. Zoom in, try and get that. Center one again. Come over here to this one. Good to go. Green check mark. The last one just because I have slider open already. Top center to top. Green check mark. Solve. Check mark. That other slider, I put too many, sorry. Move those up a little bit, and all I do is I pick them up and I drag them just so that they're out of the way so that when we put our cams in, they're not interfering at all. Just a little bit. Okay, so now we can put our cams in. So we have these systems, and again, remember where they're squares, they slide right on, and this is huge for offsetting. It shouldn't be that difficult. And we're going to show you here. We want to fasten these cams to the axle. And the reason that is because we don't want them to move. We want to rotate the axle, and these are going to be attached to the axle. So we're going to choose this outside surface here, the center of that. And then I'm going to select actually the center of this axle here. So we're going to go here. You might have some problems, and if you do, I'd say make it easy on yourself and just go to this outside here. And you can see obviously it's way off. So we're going to have to offset this, and we're going to offset it. If you look at the orbit here, you'll see Z, Y, and X. It's on the Z path. So we're going to move this over approximately 2 inches. And this is, again, just a guess, and it's the wrong way. So I'm going to go negative, green check mark. And I'm going to go to the front view so that I can try and line this up, right? So we want a negative, but obviously that was too much. Let's go 1 and see what direction. Okay, so negative 1.5, let's say. And what I'm doing is I'm playing with this number so that it lines up directly underneath this follower. So let's go 5, 5. So every person's is going to be different. It might be depending on where you pick, depending on what node you choose, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go negative 1.75, I think is my money. There you go. It does not have to be directly in the center. It can be close, you know, like I see here. And I'm going to press the green check mark. And I'm good there, right? So I'm going to do the next fasten. And now I'm going to use that original one that I did, the original cam, to offset from that. And I'll show you why in a sec, because it's going to be way easier. If I choose here, it'll look like it overlaps that. But if I go to offset and again do a Z and just do 1 inch from that in the negative direction, you'll see here that it makes it exactly 1 inch apart, which then puts it in the center of that one. So I can press the green check mark, do another fasten again. Again, choose the center, choose the outside of the cam I just put in there. Again, it looks like it overlaps, offset, Z, and we're going to say negative 1 so that it looks like that. Green check mark just to make sure. Yep. And you'll see that it overlaps and it'll cut in. We'll fix that in a bit here. I'm going to go ahead and do the last fasten. Center. Outside one. Check mark. Offset. Z. 1 inch again. Sorry, negative. And again, it overlaps. It's okay. Solve. Green check mark. And now we are good to go. So again, we got to move this up a little bit. You're going to move this up a little bit just so it doesn't hit. This one, I would rotate this, the axle, so that I can see the highest point of each cam. So here is one instance that both the follower and the cam, or the follower and the follower guide are a little off. So what I need to do is I need to find where I made, and I'm just scrolling over, and you can see, boom, it turns that yellow if I select the right fastener. I'm going to double click that. And now I'm going to offset it. As you can see in the Z direction, I'm going to offset it up a little bit so that I can get that so that there's clearance there. That's a little too much. Let's do 0.25. That's pretty good. And I'm going to press solve and green check mark. And you see that that moved. Now I can just physically move the follower up because it's a slider, not a fastener. And it looks like the heart, that's the highest point. We're good there. This one could actually, let's rotate this all around. And I'm just dragging that. The clearance for the guide is great, and I can pull this down just so that I can see that, and we're good to go. The eccentric was already set. So it looked like I only had to move one of these follower guides. You move as many as you need. Again, it all depends on what cams you use, where they're positioned, all that stuff that could adjust all that. Okay, so now we have the whole entire thing assembled, right? Let's go into the animation part now. So tangents. This is where you're going to start adding tangent. And a tangent mate basically allows a surface to follow a path. So the first thing you pick is basically, and this is why we made these little curves at the end, you'll see this little plane that's underneath here. It's easier if you use that little plane and to select the first vertex, and then you can select the edge that you want it to follow. So I'm going to select this one, and it'll automatically fix the rest, and you can see it kind of clicked in and it started to touch those pieces, which is what you want. Press the green check mark, and now you'll see, and you can kind of animate this or just manually animate it as you move the axle here, and it'll be a little glitchy. It's okay because when it animates it kind of fixes itself. But I'm going to rotate this really slowly. Let's see. Try and do this. Let's go to the Revolute. So just to make sure it works, I'm going to go to animate. I'm going to leave everything alone and just press play. And you can see as I animate it, it automatically renders and fixes that for you, and it's following that path. We'll fix, obviously it's not going all the way around, we'll fix all that later, but I just want to make sure that that was working correctly. So let's do the other ones. We're going to go to tangent again up here. You're going to select that little plane, that little surface right there, and then we're going to select this outside path where you want it to follow. Green check mark. It didn't connect for some reason, which isn't cool, so let's try and fix that. You can see some things were happening here, so I'm going to delete that second tangent. We're going to fix that. So we're going to go to tangent. Let's try, and now instead of using that plane, let's try and use, let's still use the plane. Let's see what it, maybe I just did something wrong. Oh, it's not collecting here. Switch it. There we go. So you see I flipped the axis, and that allowed it to switch the way that the software basically recognizes the path. So you just press on that one I had to press, and sometimes you just got to flick the primary axis. Press the green check mark. And now I would recommend as you do each one of these, test them. Don't, you know, you see that kind of sticks. So I go to Revolute, I go to right click, and I press animate, and just press play. And it should, it says unable to compute any steps and constraints. So there must be something wrong here. Let's see here. I'm going to try that other one again. And as you can see, it's starting to work now, and it's following that path. So now I'm going to do the same to the other ones. I'm going to do tangent here. Press tangent. Press that bottom plane. Press the surface that I want it to follow. It clicks, so we're good to go. I can press the green check mark. And again, test it. Go to the only revolute that we made, basically the axle. Animate. Press play. It's working so far. Looks really good. It's only going that far, but it's moving all those pieces. And then the last one we have to do. So we go to tangent. Press that little plane at the bottom there. Path we want it to follow. It moved. You saw it kind of jerk, and it's touching that piece. Press the green check mark. And now we can do the final test and the final animation, and we are completely done. So as you see right here, I'm going to go to Revolute. Click Revolute. I'm going to right click and go to Animate. And it'll bring up a whole bunch of new dialogue. And you can do it only one rotation. You can do 300 steps. Basically, the number of steps you can make a loop. That's what I would recommend doing. And I would say 0 to 360 degrees, which is one full circle. But I'd increase the number of steps. So let's say 1,000. And when I press play, you'll see eventually... I'm able to transform. Instances may be constrained. Let's try it again. Revolute, animate. Let's just try by itself. Something is messed up. So it's okay. Okay, so the issue that I found here, and you might have the same issue again because I was working with different ones. Do you see how this plane is not touching this part? And it's actually this curved piece that's touching that part. So that's kind of important. So what you need to do is when you create this tangent constraint, you need to choose basically this outside curve to this piece, and that should solve the issues. I did it already to the heart one, so we have 4. Let's make sure that that works, and then I'll go over everything. So I find the revolute, I press animate, press play. And as you can see now it works. So the problem was that, and you can change all these instances to go a little bit farther if you want. Press play. It'll go a little slower basically. So you can say 360 degrees. You can play with all these. You can make it single, and it'll show basically the current value of where it's at. And as you can see, I can make it loop. So as you can see, the difference was, and I'll show you again real quick here, and just for the sake of understanding, some of these will touch, and as you can see right here, some of these, the corner will touch this surface, not the plane, whereas some of them will touch the surface and the plane. So it really depends on that first selection you make. Your cam depends on what you select. Again, this one, it looks like that flat plane is going to touch it the whole time. And this one you could do, and obviously this one I changed because it had to be the outside corner. So make sure you choose the surface that's going to be touching the cam profile the most before you press animate. So I hope this helps. And if you guys have any questions, just ask your teacher and they'll hopefully help you. Thank you.